We're given an equation h of x, which is 4 plus 5x plus 2x cubed, and you need to make a whole bunch of new equations so that adding all of those new equations together would be the same as h of x. So one example is you could make, if I want 4 plus 5x plus 2x cubed, I can make f of x 4, g of x 2x, n of x 3x, and m of x 2x cubed. Can you see that that would be the same as what I started with? And so you would write in A, f of x equals 4, g of x equals 2x, n of x equals 3x, and m of x equals 2x cubed. Does it make sense that you could have a bunch of different ones to make this work? You could have made f of x2 g of x2. And the reason that these questions are never really asked on the exam is because there's so many different right answers. And also, there's a nice way to sort of really make it easy all the way through. What if I made f of x the exact same thing? What would that make g of x, n of x, and m of x? 0. Is that wrong? No. Does it kind of make the question pointless? Yeah. Could you see that you could do the same thing in subtracting? If you made f of x exactly the same, what could you make g of x? 0. Now, there's other things you could do. You could make f of x 4 plus 5x, and then g of x would have to be negative 2x cubed. So when you subtract the negative, it becomes adding. But you have a whole bunch of different options that you could do. Okay? When we get to example 4 is the same thing with multiplying. Now, in 4a, we need p of x to be something times something. So I think what they were looking for is they would say, maybe you'd recognize, hey, I can factor this to be x plus 3, x minus 3. So if I factor it, then I could make f of x, x plus 3, and g of x, x minus 3. Because then p of x would be f of x times g of x. Can you see a way that you could cheat on this one? Well, not cheat, but just be... If you made f of x exactly what you wanted to get, what would you have to make g of x here? 1. Perfect. And that would work as well. The one you have to be careful on, okay, in B, if q of x is x plus 1, then I would make, and it's supposed to be f of x over g of x. If I make f of x, x plus 1, what does that make g of x? Make g of x equal, because dividing by 1 won't change anything. You have to be careful in this one, though, is if you make f of x, x plus 1, x plus 2, and you make g of x, x plus 2, well, if they were dividing, your x plus 2's would cancel out, and you would get x plus 1. But this would be not quite correct, because this would have a hole in the graph, whereas the equation that they give us doesn't have a hole in the graph. So you do have to be careful with that one a little bit. Okay, questions for practice for both 3 and 4 are questions 7 and 8.